Today I'm going to talk about plastic pollution in the ocean. Hopefully you'll learn something new, and hopefully you'll be able to take something with this to the next future months or years with you. By 2050, it is expected to have more plastic than fish in the ocean. That's a substantially large amount. Almost everyone uses plastic daily, though, and rarely do you stop to think about what you're using it for. Things such as school materials or writing utensils, food containers, cups, straws, medicine containers, cleansing products, cosmetics, clothes. It's everywhere, and people don't stop to think about what it can do to the environment. So the two main things I'm going to talk about are marine life and human health. For marine life, you always see a picture on commercials on TV about a turtle with some form of plastic wrapped around their fin. You may think, okay, well, they can't swim as far, or at least they're not dying because they aren't choking on it. But entanglement is a serious problem, along with intestinal injury or rupture in their intestines from digesting the plastic, as well as starvation and malnutrition. Their stomach thinks they're full, so they don't eat. They don't eat, they don't get the nutrients that they need, and they starve, they die. Another thing is, the plastic can damage sensitive habitats such as coral reefs. Coral reefs require sunlight to produce oxygen to help other animals survive. And so, when they don't get the sunlight directed because there's plastic on the surface of the ocean, they don't get the sunlight that they need. They can't produce the oxygen, and that's a big problem. The second thing is human health. A lot of people don't think about this, but plastic enters the food chain very easily when animals ingest the plastic. And almost, I think, 95% of marine life have ingested some form of plastic. It is known to be a fact that 25% of fish markets contain microplastic fibers within the intestines or stomachs of the wildlife, marine life that they sell. So most of the fish, the shrimp, the mussels, oysters, everything typically has some form of microplastics. When the fish ingest it and it doesn't get cleaned, we then ingest it, and that becomes a problem. Not a single square mile is free of plastic, and that is a very scary thing to me because I know 50 years ago, plastic was just coming around and it wasn't a big deal yet, but now it's everywhere, and I don't think we could live without it anymore. 8 million tons of plastic lands in the ocean yearly, and only 5% of the debris floats on the surface. So going back to the coral reef situation, that means a lot of the plastic pollution is down under the surface, and it ranges from the bottom of the floor to the ocean to the very top where we see boats and stuff like that. And so 80% of the pollution in the ocean is from land. It rolls off from landfills. It rolls off into the drains. Everything eventually ends up in the ocean. 9% of it is recycled, 12% is burned, and 79% resides in landfills. And a lot of landfills are in the ocean. They end up in the ocean anyways. Every piece of plastic ever made still exists because plastic does not biodegrade like a lot of other things. And so what happens is the plastic reaches exposure from the sunlight. The sunlight breaks down the plastic into smaller pieces called microplastics. Those microplastics are then seen small enough that they look like plankton or smaller fish and other marine life and ingest them. And those end up back into our systems. And those are also found in the fish markets within the fish, the oysters, the mussels, anything else that's small that might ingest something like that. There are 6 main groups that I'm going to talk about that could help either prevent plastic pollution or help develop a solution to it. The first being a fishery biologist, which studies the behavior of different marine life, and they can also locate where pollutants are formed and are worse. So this is not just for plastic, this is for any pollution, anything that might enter the ocean that shouldn't be there. The second group is a marine biologist who analyzes the data, and they can provide rehab for the animals that are injured, whether it is from plastic or whether it is just any issue that they might have, as well as studying genes and diseases, which is a very large thing because they might even be able to tell whether or not there is an issue from the plastic that is causing a disease or an illness or anything else that might affect them. A third group is the oceanographer. I feel like this group is the most interdisciplinary because it has so many different groups that can pull from. And the first part is that they study the chemicals in the ocean. So this can tell you the impact of the pollution in the ocean. It doesn't just tell you, oh, well, it doesn't look pretty. Okay, well, it tells you the chemicals that it puts off. It tells you the location that it puts off, what animals are eating it, what habitats are being destroyed, stuff like that. The second thing is it studies the ocean floor. And so when you're studying the ocean floor, there's a lot to that. It can show how the marine life is habitating, how it's mating, how it is eating, the food that it eats. And it shows them the daily routine through a 24-hour, 7 days a week, however long they want. And that's a very big important thing when it's trying to learn about each kind of animal and how it lives, how it progresses. Another thing that the oceanographer does is it studies the tides and the currents, which I find is very interesting because this can tell you where the location of the fish are, why they're there, where the plastic pollution has traveled, where it started. And then we can do changes. You can find information to change and prevent further issues. A fourth group is, of course, a teacher. So a teacher can educate the students and other faculty members of the community, as well as other members in general of the community, of the problems and prevention solutions and so forth, as well as putting together a mission trip, which can help clean up the beaches, clean up parks, clean up the ocean, clean up the streets, clean up anything, as well as helping animals, prevention, learning more information. Another group is an engineer and biochemist. They can minimize the plastic usage that's involved right now, and they can develop a safer alternative to plastic. I think this is going to be a huge development when it does occur because that can prevent a lot of things from occurring in the future, a lot of things from getting worse in the future, and I'm excited to see what engineers and biochemists can find as an alternative that's safer. Another group is the government. They develop the laws, policies, bans, pretty much anything that concerns everybody. The most recent one is the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which is pretty much a policy / law which talks about how plastic is a pollutant and how it should be illegal to litter, which is why that you see so many signs saying, illegal, fine, things like that. The government also provides funding, which can help litter prevention and collection. It can also encourage more recycling, and it can help clean storm drains because a lot of litter happens on the streets. People don't realize it, and then it goes down the drains, goes into a river, goes into the ocean, and it causes tons of issues. Things that you can do to help. You can decrease the use of any straws, bags, utensils, containers, products that you know that you use that have the microbeads or anything that you know probably will end up in a trash can instead of a recycling bin. If you don't need a water bottle that is from like a store where you can buy it, use a reusable water bottle with the filter. That'll help. Something else is avoid microbead products. So the two main kind of microbead products are polyethylene and polypropylene. You can find these in scrubs, toothpaste, body washes, clothes. They're everywhere, and what they do is they're little microplastics, and they end up in the water going down the drain, and then they end up in the river, the ocean, the lake, back into a food system, into the food chain, and they go back into our food chain. The ability to recycle is very limited, I feel like, these days. I know it is coming around, and a lot of people are trying to encourage it. However, I feel like it is minimal. So I know here in Charleston, you are required to pay a substantially large bill to the city if you want a recycling bin and if you want to have the recycling company pick it up every week or every other week. And I feel like it should be free by now because it's not just for our health, it is for everybody's. And I noticed a lot of places don't have recycling bins in general. They aren't always accessible indoor and outdoor shopping areas and schools. I noticed when we were at VSU that the bins that they had did say trash and recycle, but they were directly linked together, and there was not something making them distinctly apart. You could put your hand in and there was no barrier. And I was very upset regarding that, because they shouldn't have a container for recycling if they're not going to use it properly. In conclusion, I know many are aware of littering is against the law, but they don't take it seriously because they don't know the consequences. I know if you are very aware of the actual damage littering can cause, and I hope that you can help spread those issues, because it can really, really help and change the future. Most plastic on land ends up in the ocean, and there's no way around it because it's so much already there, but we can help prevent it from getting worse over the years, and I think that'd be a huge thing. There are a lot of changes that are needed to improve the society, and that requires the usage of scientists and teachers, engineers, biochemists, the government, and most importantly, it requires you. I know one person who can just say, oh, well, I'm one person, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just one person, but one person can change a lot. And I really hope you think about that and you take that seriously, because one person can change the mind of so many. The last thing I'm going to talk about is how all plastic is man-made. And if it's all man-made, that means all the damage that is caused is man-made. And I feel like that is a very, very taxing idea. And I know it is a very complicated idea to try and process, but I feel like everybody needs to learn and understand that, because it's kind of like every other issue that we have on Earth right now, and it's always directed from us. And so if we can fix it, we should. These are my sources, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, try and reach out to me, and I will see what I can do to help.